Hi, this is Ellen J. Mann, and you're watching the Honor Yourself First show, the place to be for information and inspiration on rediscovering the real you and creating the life that you desire and deserve. This week I posted a question out on my Facebook page, and I'd like to read that question and read you at least one of the answers, because I think it's really important for this particular show. So the question was, what's holding you back, taking up your valuable energy, maybe blocking you from accomplishing your dreams and having the life that you desire and deserve? And a lot of the responses back were really heartfelt. In fact, I got one response that was on a private message because she didn't want the world to know what was going on with her. But the one that really resonated with me, and the one I want to talk today about, is one that Becky wrote. And she wrote that the thing that was holding her back the most was procrastination. And she went on to say, setting priorities that allow my personal dreams to top the needs of my family, job, and community commitments. And isn't that just so true? And I think the reason it resonated for me was because that's part of my story, and also the reason why I have this show. It's all about honoring yourself first. And so today I just want to have a discussion with my guest, Tina Baker, my good friend and fellow coach.
Hello.
Hello. And we're going to just talk a little bit about the issues that arise when we have other people and their priorities run our lives. And I'll tell you a little bit about my story because I don't know if I've shared it all or not. But for me, what happened was, I was a mom, and so I was taking care of my family and seeing to all their needs and desires and wants and dreams. And then I was also working full time. And of course, I always wanted to climb the corporate ladder and make more money for my family so I can afford to pay for those dreams and desires of my family. And then I also was giving a lot back to the community because I felt it's really important for us to help our community to leave a legacy for our children. So I was involved in church activities and civic activities and had little time for myself. And then one day I crashed and burned. And then I realized that I was living someone else's life by default. Because I wasn't setting the priorities of what was important to me, I ended up living everybody else's expectations of me and the life that I should live. And after my daughter left, after I lost my job, and then I went into a deep depression, so I wasn't working in the community as much as I wanted to. I lost touch and sunk even farther into depression. And thankfully, God answered my prayers and led me to some teachers and some coaches and some great training tools and resources that have helped me change my habits so that I can have the life that I want and I deserve. So I don't know if you've had that experience or not, but it's pretty nasty when that happens, to live somebody else's idea of your life.
I think it's pretty typical.
Is it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and when you go through the journey we call life, you have these awakenings. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, we don't hear them, so something bad has to happen before we really pay attention to them.
Yeah, why is that?
Because we don't take the time to be still, to hear what we need to hear, to absorb what we need to absorb. And I think that God speaks to us when we're still. Mm-hmm. And this world is so busy and so noisy, and we have all these electronics going on that we just forget that we have to have that still time, because physically your brain needs to be cleared out once in a while. And you have to let that clear space enter into your space, because it's the only way that creativity can enter into your brain space. And if you don't have creativity, it really zaps your total mind, body, spirit energy.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
So you have to be able to think about what it is that you really want to do with your life. Mm-hmm. And I call that just priority management. The hot topic today in our busy, busy lives is time management. Mm-hmm. And I like to rewrite that script and call that priority management.
Yeah.
Because it's all together, our mind, body, our spirit, our work, our home life, it's all integrated together.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to look at it from a different perspective.
Right, right. And when you're setting the priorities, you can still work on the priorities of other people as well, like your family and their needs.
Absolutely.
And work and their needs. But I think sometimes we lose touch of what's really important to us. That's why I love the passion test, because it really hones in on what's most important to you and then teaches you habits that you can start putting attention on those things that matter the most. And as we know, when we put attention on, it grows stronger in our lives. So important for us to do that. But we are too busy nowadays, aren't we?
Yeah, there's a big resistance on giving yourself permission to do the things that you need to do for yourself. And when I talk to the groups that I talk about putting self-care number one, and people really look at me as if I'm crazy. Like,
That's
what
crazy.
is she talking about?
Exactly.
But it really is essential because, like they tell you on the airplane, you got to put the mask on yourself before you put it on the child, because if you're not functioning, everything pretty much falls apart. And we as women know we're kind of the orchestrator of our home life, and then when you add the stress of the job and all that, and you don't take care of yourself, it will manifest in some bad things.
Oh, yeah.
Relationship issues, divorce, addiction,
Health.
health problems,
Exactly.
depression, all those things. So if we don't stop and really look at what's important to us and what we need to do to care for ourselves, we're not going to be there for the people that we really love.
Yeah. And I found when I actually set priorities and I start focusing on them, it starts to relieve some of that stress.
Oh, yeah.
Because it makes me make a decision then on what's important and what's not important. And so if I start putting my priorities in there as well too, so that I have a more balanced life, the stress seems to go down. And
there's a big correlation.
God love us. We need that.
Absolutely. And that's just it. We're living in a stress-filled world, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
So we, as coaches, really try to work with people on putting themselves first, taking the time to really look at what is my values, what is important to me at the end of the day, at the end of the life.
Yeah.
Can you look back on and say, I really lived my life the way I wanted to live, with fulfillment? And I think a big part of that is self-acceptance.
Tell me more about that.
Well, I think people really resist that part of themselves as far as what can I do to fulfill my life? And if you resist that, it's going to show up, like I said, as stress, and stress leads to all these other things.
Yeah.
So if you really accept that your life is yours and you are allowed to have that fulfillment,
You deserve that.
you deserve it.
Exactly.
That's what God wants for you.
Yeah.
And he also tells us we'll always have enough. And I think that's another big problem in this country is the corporations, the media are always telling us you can't do enough. You won't ever have enough. You'll never be enough.
Yeah.
And we can't accept that. We have to have trust. We have to live with that trust. We have to live with uncertainty and just know that within us, if we're being called to do something with our own fulfillment, that is the right direction.
Yeah.
And you have to trust that.
Yeah. Amazingly, when you say that, I go right back to some of the travels I've done overseas. And it seems like it's the United States that has the biggest problem. I mean, I've been to some very poor countries where they had very little, but they had their priorities straight. It was God, it was family, and they just knew that it would come into place. And they didn't worry about it. They were abundant, had that abundant mindset, even with nothing, or what appeared to us as nothing.
Yeah.
And so the trick, or the sad part, is when I came back to the States, I had to go through a withdrawal because it was like,
Oh, I bet.
I can't believe these people are so focused on getting what they want and blah, blah, blah. And so I had to step back and really think about my own priorities, and I think that helped me along the way as well too.
Well, I think that's a good lesson to teach your children too. I think we spend a lot of time, energy, and money on making our kids happy, and nobody's happy. You know what I mean?
Yep.
We try to accumulate things. We try to get them involved in so many activities, traveling teams and things like that, that, you know, really put a strain on the family, both with finances and the time and energy it takes to do those things. And is that really what your children want and need?
You know, that's really true. And I wonder if we really ask our kids that question. Do you really want to do all these different things? And I'll bet you 9 times out of 10 they're going to say, you know what, it's nice, but it puts a lot of stress on them too.
Yeah.
So it's our expectations, and are we trying to live through our children?
Oh yeah.
And to slow down a little bit and give ourselves time and give them time to enjoy the simple things in life, you know, instead of traveling all over the country doing travel teams and whatnot. Yeah, I have a friend that's she and her husband, like, as soon as the kids get out of school, they are booked up solid for till 10 o'clock at night on activities. And
that can be very damaging.
Oh,
and
especially in their relationship. I mean, they never get to talk to each other because one's in one car going one way and the other one's in another car going another way, and they just, by the time they meet, they're so tired they hardly even can talk to each other anymore. So it can really hurt relationships too.
Yeah, and a lot of times that's when most people have the most time with their child, is in the car.
Yeah, exactly, because we don't do it over meals anymore, do we?
No.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Wow. So what do you do with yourself and with your clients to help them prioritize? What are some tools, some resources that you use?
Well, there's a Wheel of Life, which is a way to scale your values. It gives you different categories of your life, you know, your work, your free time, your family, your community service, things like that. And you scale it, what's in your heart, as far as where that would fit into your priorities. So it really it gets you thinking. And I think that's the key here, is to take the time to really think about how you want to spend that precious time, energy, to get to where you are fulfilled and happy in your life, no matter what.
Yeah, yeah. And once you can identify it, then you can
take the steps. You can you set up action steps and work through that.
Yeah, that's a great tool for people to use. Yeah, just knowing that you're doing it, stopping first off so you can hear that small voice and you can listen, and then starting to focus in on the different priorities that are there and really gauging, you know, how important is this?
And then when you are doing your time management, when you are setting up your scheduling, you schedule that time, that self-care time in, whether it be, whether it be prayer time, meditation, a nature walk, reading. Reading's a fabulous way to just have some quiet time, you know, get a nice inspirational book, read your Bible, whatever it is. You have to keep feeding your soul, and you know, growth makes you more of who you need to be. And when you grow, when you feed your soul, you're more of who you want to be.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing with priorities is learning how to say no.
Oh, that's huge.
Isn't it though?
Yes.
And that's what happened to me when I was doing a lot of community and church work. Because it was kind of feeding my soul because I was giving.
Oh, sure.
But then it started taking up a lot of the time, and not that I felt resentful, but I started to feel resentful, you know? And I had a hard time saying no. And one of the things, actually the secret for the passion test is whenever you're faced with a choice, decision, or opportunity, always choose in favor of your passions. So when I started using that and started saying, okay, this is an opportunity coming to me, does it fall in alignment with what is really important to me? And if it's not, then I just gracefully just say, thank you, but no thank you. You know, maybe
That's
another
huge.
time.
If you can get to that point, that's huge.
Oh,
That's
it
huge.
is.
But most women aren't willing to give themselves permission to even look at that, to even
Yeah.
take the time to look at that.
Why is that?
Well, I think it's the culture. The priorities, you know, get skewed. I wrote an article called "The Three Precious Commodities," and the commodities are time, energy, and money.
Right.
And money's at the bottom. The top thing is the time, because you can't get it back once it's gone.
Right.
Energy would be your physical energy and your spiritual energy. And I like to tell people when they're looking at decisions, how does this drain or enhance my energy? And you can use that when you're looking at your relationships,
Right.
when you're looking at activities. You know, is this really going to drain me, my family, or is it going to enhance it?
Yeah, I
So
even
that-
take it a little bit more simple with my clients too. Does it feel heavy or light?
Yes, exactly.
You know, if it feels
Yeah, I like
heavy,
that.
then for God's sake, don't do it. If it feels light, then you know it's going
Yes.
to bring in energy and it's going to make you feel well. It's a
You
very
don't-
simple test.
You don't want to do something that's going to suck you dry,
Oh,
right?
I hope not. That would be awful.
But we do that. We do that
Yeah.
all the time.
Exactly.
So I think, you know, there's a lot to do with guilt, fear, self-doubt, self-judgment. Am I good enough? Am I doing what I need to do for my family? How do I compare to my friends who are moms? You know, we always compare each other, especially if you're a mom. So there's a lot of that going on,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you can really skew your priorities if you do that.
Yeah, and really it boils all the way down to a fear of rejection,
Yes.
of love.
Yes,
And so if we can learn to love ourselves,
exactly.
then we can make decisions that benefit us and other people as well too. Then there's no fear-based. It's so
No.
what if, you know, Sally doesn't like that I'm on the phone tree this week or whatever. It's not mine to give. There's somebody else who's more equipped to do that at this point in time. And it wouldn't serve me and it wouldn't serve them.
So I guess a good question to ask yourself is, what am I afraid of? What am I resisting?
Yeah.
And then if things come up about judgment from others, you need to put that aside.
Yeah.
And you need to know that, you can't let those creepy feelings of judgment in, because that will block you, that will provide a lot of resistance to what you really want to be doing.
Oh, exactly. And going down to your base beliefs as well too. You know, we were talking about our culture, and I think we took the thing about not being selfish. You know how our parents don't be selfish. You got to share your toys and you got to do all these things, and we've taken that to the extreme and not realize that it's not being selfish to really love yourself and to appreciate the things that you are and the life that you really want. It's not selfish at all.
Right.
And we have to replace that belief in our system to be able to make that transition. Yeah.
And perfectionism is another problem that I think women battle, and that can be very damaging too, because it really makes you stuck, because you can't move forward if you're a perfectionist. It's really tough to get things done, to move forward, because you're putting so much pressure on yourself to be perfect that blocks you, and it makes you stuck.
Yeah.
So you have to have a lot of self-forgiveness. You have to.
What's that?
Yeah. You have to forgive yourself if you feel like you're not doing something perfect. It's okay. It's okay. You have to release that.
Yeah.
So you can move forward and not be afraid to show who you really are.
And
nobody's perfect. Sorry. It's just not there. I only know one who is perfect.
Exactly.
And that's who you need to trust and lean on.
Yeah. And truly, when we start putting up that front, because it's a front that we put on when we're a perfectionist, that we are perfect, we really block other people from seeing the real us. And
yes,
who we can be.
and I think it blocks you from seeking and receiving support. And And I think that's the key. If you are a busy person or you're starting a business, you can't do it alone. You just can't.
Yeah.
Even if you're a solo entrepreneur, you have to have support.
Well, thank goodness for coaches like
Yeah.
us that can help people, and just guide them. I have that conversation all the time. Well, you're just going to tell me what to do. And I went, no, you're going to tell yourself what to do. I'm
Yes.
just trying to bring out the best in you and to point out areas that may be holding you back. And then we need to work
Yes.
around where did that come from and how can we move through that so you can be more richly fulfilled in your life. Exactly.
Well,
Do you think men have the same issues?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. One of my favorite books right now is Daring Greatly by Brene Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been attracted to helping women, but after I read this book, and she talks about how men are raised with shame and guilt, and all these expectations are put on them. It's really, really tough for them. We recognize the challenges women have, but often forget about the challenges that men have too. And so that opened my heart up to recognizing that men need just as much help as women do on these issues.
They're like the silent sufferer sometimes,
Really?
Because if they tell their spouse that things aren't going well or whatever, then they think they're going to be looked down on, and that whole shame again, that they're not able to support the way
Sure.
they think they should. Yeah.
And the phrase that she put in her book that resonated with me was the phrase "man up."
Oh, God, I've heard that one a lot.
I know.
Yeah.
So
suck it up.
Yeah.
Suck it up.
Yeah.
Man it
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
And get over it. Well, you really can't.
No.
Because it does hold you back. You have to work through it and let it pass through you in order to reach the other side.
And people wonder, wives wonder why their husbands don't open up to them. But if that's how they were raised, that's what they're going to do. So if we recognize that as wives, we can see that underneath all that, they need to be able to share what their fears are, where the self-doubts are coming from, and really where they want to go with their lives. So anything that we're talking about today definitely applies to men too.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the problem sometimes that women have, especially in a husband-wife relationship, is, oh, honey, I know you're having a bad day. Tell me all about it. Well, when he shuts down and puts that front up, then we take it personally and think, oh, it must have been something I said.
It's a reflection on us, but it's really not. It's not. Yeah.
It's just take the time to be still and help them be still and feel comfortable enough to sharing it with you. Yeah.
Sure.
And then it's okay.
It's okay.
Exactly. So you, we talked a little bit about coaching and how coaches can help.
Yeah.
And you have a specialty, don't you, Tina?
Yes, my background is in sales. I was a corporate sales rep for 25 years. And then, I went through a big transition. I realized that in the corporate setting, you can never do enough, be enough. And, there's in my industry, I was in the pharmaceutical industry. There's a lot of bullying going on. And, I had to go through that too. The last 2 years of my career were the most successful, and yet I was bullied the most. So I think God was trying to tell me that He wanted me to go a different direction. And when I realized that, then I could release the guilt and the self-doubt that I had to leave the corporate life and move on to something else. So I went back to school, got my coaching training, and I found that I could use my coaching and sales ability to help entrepreneurs feel more comfortable in the sales process.
What a wonderful gift. Oh my gosh. The entrepreneurs that I know can be so good at the marketing and getting things done, but they're afraid to go out and talk to people. And unless you're making connections, which is comfy connections, which is what you're all about, and being comfortable in doing that, then they really can't take their business forward.
Yeah, it's all
and they're
about
waiting
fear.
for the phone to ring.
It's all about fear again. But the number one rule of sales is to show up. And show up as you are. Show up as who you are, no matter what you sell, whether it be real estate or Mary Kay, Pampered Chef, whatever. You're selling you. You are the brand, and you have a unique perspective that you bring.
And passion as well, too.
Yes, exactly. And I call this your vibe. And the vibe is, the acronym is VIBE, your voice of inner brilliant expression.
Wow, nice.
And that includes your personality, your experiences, your knowledge, your education, your wisdom, your values. And everyone has a unique vibe. So that is really what you need to show up with. You don't have a business card? Oh well, you know.
Fancy website.
Your website isn't done? Oh well. Just it means so much more to people to show up, reveal yourself, and bring your unique vibe, your unique perspective.
Because people buy who they trust. They buy from whom they trust. And
Absolutely.
so if they don't get to know you and you don't start establishing a relationship with you, how could they consider your product or service? Then it becomes very much a commodity rather than just, you know, I really like Tina and I love what she does and I know she's there to help me and so I'm going to take a look at what she has to offer. Yes,
and sales is a very emotional process. People buy from their emotions. And so it is a process. So if you come to the sales arena with a lot of, you know, it's creepy or it's scary or it's I don't want to come off as salesy. You know, that's if you come to it with the idea that you have something you want to share. You have special gifts. And part of that's your vibe, part of that's your product, part of that's the results that your product or service may give. And what problems that you solve for them. So it's a process. It's not, the sale isn't when the money's exchanged. The sale is the process. And it begins with showing up and making connections.
Wow. So you've kind of packaged this into a sales process.
Yes, I call it my Comfy Connection sales process.
Nice.
Because I want people to feel comfortable in the sales process. I think there's a lot of resistance out there because people have fear of rejection. But if you realize it's not about you, it's about them, that no doesn't really mean no. No can mean it's not the right time. No can mean I have a block about something, I don't feel I'm worth spending money on or something like that. Or it's just not a good fit.
I appreciate you having a session out there, which is on November.
Well, I'm offering a workshop. It's virtual. It's you can access it on the phone or online, so that people can, you know, if they're at home or at work, they can hop on the phone. It's a 4-week class, 1 hour per week, and it'll be recorded. So if you can't make each class, then you can listen to the recording.
That's awesome.
There'll be Q&A time, so they can have access to personal coaching. And then, like I said, they can access the recordings if they want to just re-listen to the class.
So they should get a hold of you if they're interested in doing that.
Yep.
And then if there's any questions that they have of either one of us, you know, they can always email me at ellenman.com, ellen@ellenman.com. And we can pass on that information. So thank you, Tina, for being here today.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for all you do too, Ellen. I appreciate you.
Oh, my pleasure and my honor. And I want to thank my crew here at Access Fort Wayne. You guys are awesome. And Access Fort Wayne is a great resource for our community. So thank you for providing that for us. And most of all, I want to thank my audience for being with me and giving me suggestions on the things that really are important to them that we can cover on this show. And most of all, I want to remind people that you only have one life. Why not live it to its fullest and be the light that God intended you to be? Thank you.